Ibn Webb, Quran, and some. So another go around with this official thanks here. Just just want to take a second just to say how grateful and humble I've been just with those who've been willing to come on and shoot the breeze with me here. I know it's just like, damn, you're going back down memory lane. I've been there, done that, but it's been cool. Like I said, folks been wanting to just kind of get a dose of nostalgia, just have some conversations with me. We got another Essex County All Day edition here, and this is actually pretty cool. Guest I got coming up, Mike Lamberti here. He's actually a journalist who's been writing for New Jersey for 45 years plus, particularly Essex County. I know he's ventured out to other counties as far as Passaic, Bergen County, what have you here. But when you just talk about sports, I mean, just think about just in general, just getting that print, getting that write-up, just having those people cover you or what have you. They help make not only the individual, the school, the town, the state, et cetera, here as far as what they're writing about, what they're talking about. So like I said, totally, reached out to him, very, very just humbled by him just being like, hey, I have no problem just coming to talk that Essex County talk, sports talk or what have you. So like I said, looking forward to it. So waiting for Mr. Lamberti to get on, and like I said, we'll get to it.
How about now?
Yes. How you doing, sir? I'm Ibn Webb. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
Nah, thank you. This is me. I'm the one that's honored and floored, like just, you just taking time out, of your day just to sit here and just talk with me about sports. Yeah, that's just
you're into it. I've seen your stuff. It's good.
Nah, I appreciate it. And like I told when we spoke, like I said, it was just something I was just doing, and somehow it grew some legs, and and I just think one, I'm just like I said, just taken back by everybody just want to be like, hey, let's talk, and I don't mind going down memory lane a little bit here. So I think it's been pretty cool in that aspect.
It's been a good place to go, memory lane. Good place.
Yes. So again, like I said, I know you well established over 45 years as far as just doing this stuff here. Just tell me a little bit as far as. So I'm gonna just take you. So we're gonna go back. Tell me about growing up, Belleville, correct?
Belleville, New Jersey. I grew up as a little kid in Newark, in the Bailesburg section.
Oh, okay.
Over at Ivy Hill Park in that area by Seton Hall.
Yep.
And then my parents moved to Belleville when I was in the 6th grade, and grew up. Spent the rest of my youth in Belleville. Went to Belleville Junior High, Belleville High School, and started writing when I was a kid at Belleville High for a newspaper, and never stopped doing it.
Okay. Now, even did you play sports or anything? Okay. What did you play?
I was a tall, skinny kid back then. Not even that tall back then. I was a skinny kid. I was cross country and track, and I was the manager of the basketball team. So I took part in all 3 seasons. It was fun.
Absolutely.
Basketball was a lot of fun, even though I wasn't that kind of player. Just to be around there was some great talent there, as you know, in the mid 70s, and to be around that was pretty special.
Totally. And I think just the whole team aspect, being on a team, playing, I don't care where the skill level is at as far as your teammates. You don't forget them. And,
you never forget them.
Yeah, and I'm sure those who are still around with you to this day, I'm sure, like, those relationships, it's like y'all never get out of high school when you catch up with them,
Oh, you go right back. You transition back to being 16 years old again. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So, were you guys was Belleville pretty good in basketball? But I know you had Mr. Anderson.
We had Abdel. Yeah, so with Abdel there, it was every game the place was completely sold out. College scouts after every game, so it was kind of exciting to be around that because we knew Abdel was special, and he had a really good career in college. Went to Rutgers and played in the Final Four. He's in the Rutgers Hall of Fame now for basketball. It's pretty good. He had a nice career, and we've remained pretty good friends, Abdel and I.
No, absolutely. Now, back then, Belleville, what conference was it back then as far as?
The Big Ten.
Okay. So that's just all the Essex County schools pretty much.
Yeah, we had a deal with East Orange twice, Orange, Bloomfield, Irvington, Montclair, Columbia, everybody. It was only 9 teams in the Big Ten back then, but it was still, we called it the Big Ten.
Oh, that's like now the Big Ten got about 20 teams in it in the NCAA. So we know none of us can count. Yeah, we can't count.
Yeah, the numbers are all skewed anyway. So absolutely.
Yeah.
But we there was an Essex Catholic was a really good team then, but they weren't in the Big Ten the year till later on.
Okay.
But I mean, Essex County was just loaded with basketball. And the New York City League has great teams: Barringer, Shabazz, Weequahic. There were some great teams there.
Nah, totally, totally. Now I could just imagine like just the atmosphere, like the gyms just being packed back then. I can only imagine.
Oh, it was, and there are a lot of small gyms, which really made it fun to just to try to get in.
Hmm.
But I remember the '75 Essex County final between East Orange and Essex Catholic,
Okay.
both undefeated. Played at Seton Hall at Walsh Auditorium, and I couldn't get in. It was just that packed. I listened to the game on a transistor radio because I just couldn't get in.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was. And Walsh was a great place to watch a game, but still is.
No, that's what I hear. That's what I hear. Like especially those county tournament, those finals back then. Obviously, I know mid '80s they moved over to Essex County, but back then I heard it was just classic to be at.
Great, good times there too. But at Walsh, they had the semis and the finals at Walsh back then. And then then, like you said, later on they moved to Essex County College for probably a bigger venue, I guess. I don't know why they did it, but they did.
Yeah, yeah, and I know with yourself here, you mentioned as far as starting to write in high school, was it just like for like the school, I don't know, newspaper, or how did
Yeah, my senior year of high school, I took a journalism class,
Okay.
and the journalism class had what was called a school page in the local Belleville weekly newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
It's still around. The paper itself is still around, but it's not what it used to be. And my journalism teacher thought I had a little bit of a flair for writing, in sports. And she said, would you like to, have a column? Eventually she let me have a column, which was a whole different kind of writing. And when I graduated Belleville, the editor said, would you like to stay on with us and just, do some part-time work? And that's all it's ever been for me, is part-time.
Okay.
I've been in the banking business full-time. But I love writing. I love the relationships you make with kids, and eventually those kids become coaches themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and the coaches, and it's just a good time. It's a different world today, but it's still a lot of fun.
Totally. I know I can only imagine the relationships you have just based on, just writing and producing articles or just being around. I can only imagine like those relationships. I know. So back then, even when obviously from the school, then I know you mentioned it being part-time. So you go off to college. Like, what are you doing writing wise when you're out of high school?
Well, I went to Fairleigh Dickinson University, so I live close. So I
Okay.
didn't, I just lived home. So I would just, I'd go to school, and then at the end of school, I would, a couple of days a week, I'd be at the newspaper writing articles for that week's edition. And, and then eventually I got a job at a bank, which started my banking career a little bit later. And, but I just kept writing. I just thought it was something, the writings really helped me professionally, because the better you can write and relate, the better you do in the business world as well.
Totally. You remember your first article?
Yeah, my first article was about the cross country team at Belleville High, and I was on that team, so it was weird writing about myself. But I wasn't that good. I was a decent runner, but that was my first article, October of 1975, and that was when it all started for me. And I can't even tell you how many articles I've written since over the last 45 years, but it's been a lot.
Yeah. So and again, I know just doing it part-time. Do you explore ultimately at any point? I know you got into the banking business, and I know obviously that probably kept, I'm sure that kept the lights on, but
yeah.
But as far as, did you ever entertain like wanting to just write full-time?
No, not really. It's something I just enjoy.
Okay.
I don't want to, I'm not trying to sound like Bo Jackson. It is, it's a hobby, but it's just something I enjoyed, and I try to get better at. I took it seriously because you want to write a nice article, because it's amazing the kids and the parents that keep scrapbooks of articles that, people send me pictures on Facebook now of articles I wrote in 1980. Oh my God. And, I look at it, I say, I didn't think I was as good a writer then, but it's still nice that it meant something to them, and that they remember me, hopefully in a decent way, which is, it's important to have that.
What was what do you consider your first big time article you had to write?
Well, it's a good question. Well, remember early on, I was just covering Belleville sports. So, Belleville had a couple of really good basketball players after Abdel, Jennifer Apicella being one of them. She was the all-time leading scorer in the state for a long time. So just following her entire, venture from being a kid to being, a 3,000 point scorer and the first ever in the state. And that was fun, because I've known her well, but it was fun to watch her evolve into not only a good player, but really kind of a superstar in high school. So it was kind of fun to watch that. And then over the years, just covering different sports, wrestling. I've really enjoyed wrestling a lot in Essex County, and basketball, obviously. I just wrote a nice, I don't know if it's nice, but I enjoyed it. I sent you a copy, a piece on Bob Lester.
Oh, about Mr. Lester, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and he's, I still call him Mr. Lester myself. It's how much respect I have for him. He's such a good man. But just talking to him about some of the memories of growing up in that era, and and what it meant to be a part of that. I wrote an article once. It was about 10 years ago, and I've rerun it a few times. It was about a teacher at Belleville High School, and his daughter became very ill and almost died. And she lived down in Washington, D.C. Teacher, of course, was up here in Belleville. And what I remember about it was she had some kind of something with her brain, a brain bleed or something.
Okay.
And the doctor at the emergency room in Washington, D.C., which is where she was rushed to, played quarterback at Belleville for that coach as a kid.
Wow.
And 30 years later, they had no idea the relationship because they hadn't seen each other, but he helped save that coach's daughter's life that day. And thankfully she's doing well now, but it was a really interesting piece because he's a renowned neurologist now down in neurosurgeon actually in Washington. And that night he saved her life. And he didn't know until later that it was his former coach's daughter.
Wow, talk about small world and the irony of all of that.
Oh my God, it was, and the sad part is after all that, everything was fine. Girl did well. The father died suddenly. Like about maybe 6 months after all that happened and everything was good, he became ill and died. And it was just the entire story was just amazing. If you think about, a small town and what it means to, that you'd have a doctor and then, taking care of his, of a patient that he didn't even know was the daughter of a guy he grew up with. So it was interesting.
Yeah, it's a whole lot in that. I mean, you talk about, the relationship and obviously the sports connection, but I just think about even writing that piece, me asking you just like something like that, like how do you balance your emotions with writing something like that?
Well, that's a good question. The coach or the coach at the time, he and I were very good friends. His name is Bill Baca, Bakka, his last name is. And I knew about his daughter's illness, and Bill and I were pretty tight. And he was a teacher at Belleville High School, as a science teacher. And so I asked him a couple of times, would you like to talk about the story? And he said, not yet, I'm not ready. I said, no problem. You let me know. I'd love to write the article one day if you let me. If you don't, I understand. And then finally he said, okay, let's sit down. And we talked about the whole thing. He told me what I didn't want to write anything that he wasn't comfortable with, but he pretty much told me the whole story. And it was nice to go through that journey with him. Like I said, it was just sad that he passed away later on, but he was a special guy, and it was fun to talk to him because he really relayed everything that went on for that whole instance.
Yeah. Wow.
I've covered some great games too. You graduated when, 86, you said?
Oh no, I'm a little later. I'm a 90s guy.
I'm sorry.
I got
you were
92. 92.
You started 92. Right. Okay. Well, in 1982, Belleville played Passaic in a football game.
Okay. Is that when they had Ironhead?
Yes.
Okay.
And Belleville beat them 3-2. One of the greatest games I've ever seen. It was a phenomenal game. And Ironhead played. There were 3 guys in that game who all went on to the NFL from two small towns. David Grant for Belleville, who played for the Cincinnati Bengals and played in the Super Bowl. Craig Hayward and Tyrone Stowe all had pretty good careers, and here they all are playing in this one game. So, excuse me. Even in small towns, there's a lot of amazing things that can happen with people.
Totally, and I'm just like chuckling to myself with that score, 3-2.
3-2. Yep, it was. Belleville kicked the field goal in the second quarter, and then Passaic, at the end of the game, the Belleville was on their own, like really way back. They didn't want to risk a bad punt, so the kid stepped out of the end zone to end the game.
Okay.
So that was the safety for Passaic.
Yeah.
But there's been some incredible. I mean, Belleville for a small town's had some great sports memories, as have a lot of the other towns. Bloomfield.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that as far as even just throughout your travels, like somebody see you coming, are they happy to see you or not so happy to see you?
I hope they are. I mean, you
Okay.
know, I don't try to be controversial. I just try to write what I enjoy. I love covering girls softball in the spring. We have a lot of
Mhm.
fun with that. The kids are great. Coaches are
Yeah.
the parents. You get friendly with
Mhm.
them all. I hope not. I'm not there to create any controversy. I'm just here to write the score and get some quotes. If they lose 100-0, I'm not going to write they
Right.
lost 100-0. You just write what you can about, you know, any bright moment for the kid.
Mhm.
You know, you're not trying to embarrass them. These are high school kids playing sports. 99% of them are going to go past that. So you don't want to, you just want to be positive.
No, absolutely. And as you say, softball. I have a 6 soon to be 7-year-old in a couple of weeks here. She told me she wants to play softball.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so I'm actually about to go up. I got to sign her up in the next week or two and get her
you
out there.
should.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean,
I
she
mean,
knows the sports by her father here, like how much I love sports here. So for her to even say that to me, inside I kind of was pumping my fists inside.
absolutely.
Yeah, I was like, cool,
You don't want to
cool.
push it too much, but you also want
Nah,
them to try it. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
And,
And the other thing too, she's a lefty like me, so it's pretty
oh,
cool.
nice. Is she a
Yeah,
pitcher or what position?
I don't know what she's gonna do. Again, at that age, it's more
Yeah.
instructional and
I don't know. Maybe she had a little interest toward one or the other. Yeah.
yeah, I guess I'm gonna just get out there just first to see kind of how she get the feel and see if it's something she want to continue with.
Yeah.
As a parent, you just throw everything at your kid and just see what sticks.
You know what it's about? It's about competition. Let the kids enjoy it. Learn how
Yeah,
to win. Learn how to lose. Nothing wrong with that.
nah,
That's part
absolutely.
of it's part of life, and I think it does a lot. It's amazing the guys I talk to now that are out of high school, fathers themselves or moms, whatever,
Mhm.
and they said that winning and losing taught them a lot in life in general. They can pass that on to their kids too. And that's important.
Nah, definitely, definitely. And I was just gonna one ask as far as just in general, was Belleville or even outside of Belleville here, as far
Mhm.
as like what is one of the best games you ever seen, Essex
Well, it's
County
funny. I
wise?
was just ranking the 5 top one. Few people asked me because there was a wrestling match at Belleville in 1976 against Pascagoula Hills that most people know from that area was maybe one of the greatest sporting events I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Belleville Passaic game I just mentioned to you, the 3-2 game in 1982. Belleville baseball has had some very good teams over the years.
Yeah.
And they had a great game with Bloomfield in the Greater North Tournament one year in the semis. Phenomenal game. Um, Girls softball, Belleville softball has had some tremendous teams,
Mm-hmm.
and it was good seeing them win a state sectional title one year, and I was there for that. That was pretty memorable. And you and I talked a little bit the other day about female sports. It's really, since the advent of Title IX, it's
Yes.
amazing how girls sports are really becoming much more prominent.
Absolutely.
It's been a long
Absolutely.
time. And Belleville Seton Hall Prep football game in 1979 was one of my favorites too, because Belleville came back and beat them, and Seton Hall Prep was such a good team, and Belleville won it. So that was exciting. So those are some of the big ones I remember seeing.
Now back then, Seton Hall, they were coached by Coach Fiducci back then.
Yes, Coach Verducci was the coach. My buddy
Yes.
Chet Parlavecchio
Yeah.
had played
Yeah.
for Seton Hall. He wasn't on that team. He had already graduated and gone on to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
But Chet and I, I've known Chet since high school, and now he's had a great coaching career.
Now I remember him, but he was at Bloomfield for a period of
Yes,
time. Yes. No, he
he
had
went to
a
Irvington
Irvington. Yes.
and Passaic Valley, and then he went over to Elizabeth, and he was at Clifton. He was at a bunch of schools, and he just retired.
And I think he got to the Essex County Coaches Hall of Fame recently.
Yeah,
I think
in
I saw
fact,
that.
I'm on that committee, and I just wrote a big feature on him about that. And
Mm-hmm.
he had Chet coached in the NFL for 3 years. People forget that,
Mm-hmm.
with the Tennessee Titans, and not too long ago. And he was also he also played in the NFL for a couple of years. So not many people can get to that level. So it's an amazing accomplishment.
Nah, totally, totally. Who's been one of the best as far as that you've seen even out of Belleville, as far as you just seen that rise? You might even know him as a kid playing Little League, just kind of just ascended.
Well, I've always said the best. Well, Belleville had a baseball player and a football player named Frank Fazzini.
Okay.
Graduated in '82. He went on to Florida State, had a great career, got drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers, and then later was put into the Florida State Hall of Fame. He was one of the best athletes in Belleville that I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But the best athlete, I don't know if you remember him or not, might have been a little bit before your time, that I ever saw just competing was a guy named Ronaldo Nehemiah.
Remember that name? He ran. Yeah. Was it
And
track too? He did a little bit of. Okay. Yeah, I remember that name.
He's class of '77, but he was by far he and a guy named Butch Woolfolk.
Yeah, played for the Giants. Played for the
Yeah,
Giants.
went to Michigan, and they were, Butch was a Westfield guy.
Mhm.
Ronaldo Nehemiah was a Scotch Plains guy, both Union County. Maybe the two of the best athletes I've ever seen, especially Ronaldo Nehemiah. He was incredible. He was a hurdler, and
Then he played for the Cowboys or did something. Was it
49ers?
49ers? I know. Okay.
Yeah, he played on the 84 49ers that won the Super Bowl because he ended up going to the NFL after he couldn't compete in the Olympics because we had boycotted the 1980 games. The U.S. had boycotted those games. So he didn't get a chance to compete. But he was, athletically was incredible. I've never saw anybody like him. He was just that good.
Now, Bloomfield, yeah, no, I remember that name. I remember playing for the Giants when I was little.
He was a first-round draft pick at the Giants. We played at Michigan and went first-round draft pick at the Giants later on. So
now,
and Ironhead was good too. There's some tremendous talent up here.
Yeah. I just saw something posted recently. Quintus McDonald. I saw him.
Another one.
Yeah.
And people forget. Athletically, Quintus McDonald, great football player, pretty good basketball player too. He played for Bob Lester at Montclair, and he was a handful, under the boards. He was so strong.
Yeah.
But Quintus McDonald was a tremendous athlete. He had he played for the Colts for a long time.
Yeah, no. I just saw that one being posted recently here. Now, who did Belleville primarily play as far as their Thanksgiving game? Who was their Thanksgiving?
Nutley.
Is it Nutley? It was Nutley? Okay.
Yeah, Belleville Nutley was Thanksgiving from 1984 for a long time. Before that, they played Orange. They played Hillside, a few other teams. The Belleville Nutley rivalry, which was always a big rivalry, still is, was moved to Thanksgiving in 1984. It was there for many years.
Okay.
They play at different times now. They don't play. It's not that traditional holiday anymore, but they still play. It's still a big rivalry, Belleville and Nutley. The towns are about a mile apart. Still Nutley's kind of dominated it recently. I'm not going to lie, but it's still a good rival.
Totally. And how about, obviously, Bloomfield somehow made the schedule too, though.
Yeah, but Belleville and Bloomfield don't play every year. It's kind of odd. They don't play every season.
Interesting.
But when they do, they're good games, but they don't play as much. Bloomfield and Nutley play a lot more.
Okay.
For some reason, that's more of a rivalry for them, where Belleville and Nutley's more of a rivalry for Belleville. But they're all good. Bloomfield's coach is Mike Carter, who's probably one of the classiest guys you'll ever meet. Yeah. And they're all good guys. Steve DiGregorio coaches Nutley, another great guy. These are all top of the line people in addition to coaches.
Yeah, and I remember when we did talk, like my time, just to it was John Alvarado. He was he was the guy. He was the guy at Belleville when I was there.
Big time. Yeah, he was as strong and as tough as they came and very talented. Did you know Jermaine Johnson?
He running back for a quarterback for Bloomfield around that time.
For Bloomfield. He's now the coach at Belleville.
He's the head coach, really?
He's the head coach at Belleville now, Jermaine.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. No. Yeah, he was like a year or two before me.
Right. He was class of 1991, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. I remember. Okay. Interesting. I didn't even know. Good for him. Good for him. And
another great guy. Jermaine and I have known each other for a long time. He's a character, but kids love him. He's a good guy.
Yeah, and I know they had one team as far as this is the 90 team with Coach Palavecchio. They had that one team they lost to Elizabeth in the States.
1989.
Yeah, because I'm a friend of Majette Tynes. He was actually a
running back. Oh, okay. Another great athlete.
Yeah, they had him, and then they had the linebacker Fred. He went to Penn State. I'm drawing a blank.
I know what you mean.
Fred with a V. I can't think of his last name right now for Bloomfield, but yeah. So I know Bloomfield, and good for Jermaine. How's his team? He's been there for a while.
Yeah, he's been the head coach, I think, for 3 full seasons now. And now the schedule got a little bit easier for them, which helped. But he's helped. He's developed the program nicely. And on top of that, the kids love him because they know he knows the game. Mm-hmm. He played in the Arena Football League for a while, Jermaine. So he did well. He went to Montclair State, but he had a very good career. He's doing great. Yeah. He teaches at Belleville, and again, the kids relate to him, and that's important.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Just even with the teaching, I think sometimes with high school, being present in the school pays huge dividends as far as if you're coaching those kids. You're there, you're around them. So I think kind of when you do have the opportunity to be in town on a day in, day out basis here, it pays dividends. So that connection is there. Kids can't go messing up because coach is right there.
And let's face it, Jermaine grew up in Bloomfield. He knows. He even talked about when he played against Belleville. He mentioned Alvarado too right away as one of the toughest guys he ever played against.
Hmm.
But Jermaine, Jermaine grew up he grew up in Bloomfield. You're not going to pull many things on him and pretend, that he's not going to see right through you. And kids respect that. I mean, they realize you can't BS this guy.
Yeah.
He's been there too.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So I know you mentioned the two guys as far as test your memory here. If we go decades, what sport do you prefer to cover as far as if you had your favorite?
Well, it goes by season with me. It really does. I mean, I
Okay.
love the softball season in the spring. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it this year because we didn't have a season last year, as you know.
Right, right, right.
But I love that. But in the winter, I really enjoy wrestling. I mean, I love the Essex County tournament basketball. I
Hmm.
like all sports. I just enjoy it. But wrestling's got a little bit of a little bit more for wrestling for me because I do a lot more of those events.
Okay.
The football, the fall, I love football, but I can go to a cross country meet and enjoy that. So,
Hmm.
because I did that myself. I love cross country as a kid. So I could do that too. And, I don't cover soccer as much, but it's a great sport.
Hmm.
There's tennis and stuff like that. But I'd say football, wrestling, and softball are my favorites by season.
Yeah. Now we think even with wrestling, I know that's one of the sports that has gotten away from a lot of kids, not necessarily competing here. Like, what do you think has been the shift as far as some of these, I guess, quote unquote, non-popular sports? You got the wrestling, you got a few other sports. These kids just, I mean, are the towns not having these like youth leagues kind of around
I
with the wrestling clubs or and all that other stuff?
I think the towns do have, like, I can relate to Belleville because I know Jermaine, he wants his kids to play football to either run track in the
Hmm.
winter or wrestle because
Okay.
it'll just help build up their strength. And let's face it, if you're a wrestler, you got to be in phenomenal shape to be good.
Hmm.
I think a lot of times wrestling's a hard sport. I'm not sure all the kids want to do the work that's necessary anymore. There's a
Yeah.
lot of other things that distract them now, or the kids they'd rather do
Hmm.
than work their butt off playing a sport. I'm not saying that they're not motivated, but I think there's more distractions. When Chet Parlavecchio and I reminisce about football, that's what he said to me. That's all we knew. He
Hmm.
said that's all we did. We went out, we played football, we practiced. That's all they focused on was getting better at that sport. And I think that today there's just much more for kids to do. And I don't know if that's not that they don't want to do it. I just think there's more distractions.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I think sometimes too, even like the demands of parenting then
Mm-hmm.
got to be a lot more too. So it's just kind of like sometimes I think even growing up, I just remember even my father like you're gonna do something, you're doing something, you're getting out of this
Exactly.
house. Yeah, you're getting out of this house, you're doing something where
Exactly.
that's not the case necessarily
I don't
anymore
think
for a
that's
lot of homes.
especially now because kids can't even go to school in some places. So that's a
Mhm.
problem too. But I mean, on a normal year, I
Yes,
always found, and maybe you'll agree with me here, I just like the fact I like doing three sports because it took up the school year completely. The year
that's
flew
right.
by.
Yeah.
And you had more of a focus because you didn't have a lot of time to goof around. Like if you had practice after school, you had to do your homework at night
Hmm.
because if you weren't performing well in school, you weren't going to be able to compete.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
and so it was good. Like I liked doing three, even though I was only the manager of basketball, but it was still a responsibility I had to do every day. Um, and I loved it because you just didn't have any downtime to goof around. You had to do your schoolwork, and I think I was more focused as a
Hmm.
person in my schoolwork because I wanted to get that done and still go out and enjoy myself playing sports.
No, definitely. And then you mentioned a good point here. I just want to ask, as far as what do you think now, as far as a lot of these, you probably, just covering people,
Mhm.
kids don't do the three sports. It's like they specialize in
Oh,
one and that's it. Like, how do you feel about that now?
well, that's again another really good question because Steve DiGregorio is a Nutley coach. He's a football coach, but yet he really wants his kids to play multiple sports. Maybe not all three, but I don't see as many kids playing three anymore. But I think they like them to play at least two. Like I said, Jermaine would love his kids to run track. It's only
Hmm.
going to help their speed, their endurance, or
Hmm.
wrestle. Or the big linemen should wrestle maybe,
Okay.
and the maybe the receivers and the running backs should maybe be running track just to work on their speed and their overall athletic ability. But yeah, a lot of kids specialize now because the parents put so much money in for lessons and like baseball players, they go pitching lessons, hitting lessons, and I think they don't want to do another sport because they want to focus on that one sport to get them into college.
Hmm.
And let's face it, college is very expensive, and parents invest a lot of money into um, their kid doing well in that sport with the hope that maybe they'll get that college scholarship that'll alleviate a lot of burden when they get to college or financially.
Yeah, no, I know definitely that plays a part, as far as, college and tuition, but I just recalled again, I definitely always like to say, I don't like to sound like the grumpy uncle who just talk about, well, when I was younger or
No,
this and that. But I think also, in regards to, you just never know, like even if a kid is athletic, that other sport, I've seen people's favorite love be one sport, but get a scholarship in another sport because
that's right.
they played
And they don't even realize that they have that opportunity in another sport without having. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you could just be a good athlete. Like football, I always notice if you have height in football, coaches are going to look at you. If you're 6'3", 6'4", even if you're not that great a player, they coaches see the potential and the height and the size of a kid. And you never know. You get an opportunity to, like my buddy David Grant, for good. He was a heck of a football player at Belleville. He was, 6'4", 270. Excuse me, I apologize. He went to West Virginia on a football scholarship.
Okay.
And I remember what everyone said about David. There was a high school game against, I think, Montclair. Montclair had a lot of fast guys. They were really good. And Belleville was good. And when the coaches looked at the film of David, they remember a play in which David, I guess Belleville threw an interception. The kid was long gone for a touchdown. And David caught the kid and stopped the touchdown. The kid was much quicker, but David caught him anyway. And the coaches were just thrilled with that type of, good feet, but how he never gives up on a play. And they say that really helped him into college, and then he eventually played in the NFL and played in the Super Bowl. So it's amazing, you work hard and good things can happen.
Totally, and that's a prime example. Like a lot of things in that. One, like you said, that never give up attitude, and it's just kind of
right.
like, obviously the athletic ability was there for him to chase this guy down.
That's it.
So,
he had the height and he had the size, which helped, but still.
Yeah, and sometimes kids don't realize that necessarily these college coaches are not necessarily looking for all the flash and these videos and these highlight tapes. Is examples like you just gave.
They're looking for intangibles. Yeah.
Right. Totally. The whistle didn't blow yet. And that's a prime example right there as far as that example you gave. Not totally. I know. Just covering, like I said, you talk about Belleville, you talk about obviously the surrounding towns here, and I know of late, just following up on you. I know you still cover the Bloomfield, Glenridge kind of, but you still venture out of Essex County too. Like
oh yeah,
like what schools are you doing out there?
I cover Passaic Valley High School, Little Falls a lot, and that's really become an enjoyable experience for the last. In fact, the reason why is Jeff Barlovecchio was at Passaic Valley.
Okay.
And I went over to start covering him, and he and I, rekindled a friendship, and I never left PV as far as covering all their sports, and I really enjoy that. Like fall, winter, and spring, and I cover some Wayne Hills football and Wayne Hills other sports, but Wayne Valley too. It's again some great coaches, great kids up there. Different community, but still, kids are kids.
No, absolutely. The names are coming back as you're saying that. Wayne Valley. My era was Aaron Hall.
Yes.
Yeah. That was my era. I know he went on to Purdue and all that other stuff.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, we played in the North-South game together, so that's why I remember.
There you go.
No, so I remember when you said Wayne Valley.
And Wayne Hills had obviously a guy named Greg Olson who ended up just retired. He's younger than me, class of 02 or class of 03 at Wayne Hills, but he went on to a phenomenal career in the NFL after going to Miami, and he's a Wayne Hills kid.
Absolutely. It's definitely good football out there. That I know now. As far as with Bloomfield and Glenridge, are you just mainly doing softball and wrestling, or you?
No, well, Bloomfield, I cover pretty much all the sports.
Okay.
Like in the winter, I did girls basketball, boys basketball, track, bowling, whatever sports are out there, I'll cover. I mean, I can't get to every event. I'm not going to lie, but I can call the coaches and get updates and do features on the kids, and that makes it fun.
Absolutely, and obviously Bloomfield's got a rich tradition.
Very rich.
Yeah, you mentioned the Tribucas.
Oh yeah, TJ and Kelly.
Take your pick. Yeah, take your pick.
And their athletic director is a guy named Steve Jenkins who went to your school. He went to Montclair Immaculate.
Okay.
And he graduated 70. He's older than you are, but he really he's an athletic. He does a tremendous job with that program and always pushing it forward and trying to get the kids publicity. So great to work with because he always likes to see his kids do well. And they've had kids go to the Naval Academy, to West Point,
Yeah.
to some really top-notch schools. So it's a good school system. So is Glen Ridge too, for that matter.
Now, Glen Ridge, and I know just growing up predominantly, like they were great in baseball. Like I just remember the Kennedys. I'm trying to.
I'm gonna say the Kennedy family, especially. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember. Yeah, they were just baseball. It was a big deal. It was a big deal.
Even for a small town, they had they have other good football. They do well.
Yes.
They had one of the best wrestlers I've ever covered, a guy named Joe Dubuque,
Okay.
who graduated in 2001 from Glen Ridge, went on to Indiana University and won 2 NCAA championships there at the Division I level. And now he's a coach at Princeton University. Maybe one of the best I've ever been around is Joe. And I just wrote a big feature on him not too long ago. But yeah, small town, but yet, he really put that school on the map.
Yeah, just think about it, and it's interesting because you get the best of both worlds here. The small,
yes.
I'm gonna say Group 1. I mean, maybe stuff has changed, but like a Group 1, like a Glen Ridge, and then you got I don't know if it's Group 4 or 5 now. You talk about Bloomfield, so you getting both dynamics.
Oh yeah,
you're getting small town feel and the big town feel here as far as
and they're
goes.
neighboring towns. I think
right.
they're 2 minutes away from each other. I think the only time it really affects Group 1 thing with the Group 4 and the Group 5, the only time I see it really being a difference is in football.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think Glen Ridge would be able to play against a team like Montclair or a team like Bloomfield, just because the numbers are just so skewed. But for a Group 1 school, I mean, Glen Ridge wins soccer championships. I mean, their girls have won like 9 in a row, state sectional championships, and Group 1 they're phenomenal, and their boys are very good too. And at that level in soccer, they can play with the bigger schools because it's 11 on 11 and. It's not a huge difference, but football, I think there is. I think that seems to be the concern is not pairing up Group 1s and Group 5s in football because there is a big difference there.
No, totally. And to your point, as far as you speak about Glen Ridge, I mean, just Immaculate being a small parochial school. That was actually our Thanksgiving game, Glen Ridge, Immaculate. So that was
absolutely.
Yes, so that was like back when I played that. So that was kind of, I guess our rivalry game here as far as that goes.
Would be Glen Ridge.
Yeah, as far as playing.
How about MKA? No, or with you
guys? We scrimmaged MKA. We didn't. I think they start playing them actually on the schedule later on. But I know I just recall I remember just scrimmaging them like whether it was football, basketball, baseball, what have you. So I remember, but I think later on they came on the schedule. I know there's that whole big shift with the conferences. They start weeding out the Iron Hills, the Colonial Hills, all these conferences here. They start, was it like the Super Essex, and they break them down by levels
Correct.
now?
Correct.
Yeah. When did they do that? I just recall one day looking, and next thing I know was
the fall of 2009 is when the Super Essex Conference went into effect. Okay. So they've been doing it about 12 years now. But it's nice because you get a lot of nice rivalries again in Essex County.
Okay. Do you know why they did that, or do you?
I think they were looking geographically just to try to, because when I covered Belleville in the 80s, they didn't play anybody from Essex County except maybe Nutley. There was Hackensack, Teaneck, Don Bosco, Paramus Catholic. Not a lot of natural rivalries there when you're playing Keensburg and Ridgewood,
Mm-hmm.
But when you're playing Bloomfield and Nutley and you're even playing Montclair or Caldwell, it's a little different. These kids are right down the street from each other. Yeah, you go right up Bloomfield Avenue, as you know, and see like 5 different towns: Verona,
right.
Cedar Grove,
Mm-hmm.
Bloomfield, Glen Ridge, all the way up, Livingston. So there's a little more of a natural thing there. And the Passaic County did that too with the Big North Conference.
Okay.
And then with Passaic Valley, Wayne Hills, Wayne Valley, Passaic Tech, all those schools. Mm-hmm. And again, kids, they grow up together, they know each other. It's more of a natural than playing a team that you don't really know or geographically doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, because I remember even when I was in school, we would have to go out to Burnersville. Now, mind you, that's like a 45 hour drive, from Montclair.
That's a hike. You probably, it's good to compete, but you love to be a little closer to home. Parents can come see you play a little better when you have that local rivalry.
Yeah, no, I can see the sense in that because I was just curious if it was just a certain situation, isolated incident where they say, you know what, we're just breaking this whole thing up here. But I can totally
think they just felt it was time, only because, like I said, the NGIL was scattered all over the place, and when they, when I was a kid, we were in the Big Ten. Everything was local: Columbia, Nutley, Bloomfield, Irvington, everything was, Essex County for the most part. And that was nice because we looked forward to all those games. And then as time went on, you stopped playing teams in your area. And I think they wanted to try to bring that back. So
You think it's worked?
Oh, I think it has. I think sometimes it's a little repetitious. Like in the Super Essex Conference, you play for a conference title, but you can also play for a county title. So the same teams are probably playing each other multiple times.
Okay.
So sometimes you'll see it's like in baseball or softball, they'll play 4 times, which is, sometimes can be a little stale because they'll play in a regular season. They'll play in a county tournament. They could even play in a state tournament. So they could see each other a lot.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, yeah, it has worked.
Yeah. What's one of the biggest changes you've seen in high school sports in your time, like that you won? I'll say that you have liked. Like, what's one of the biggest things, just in general? That could be any sport or just collectively. What have you seen? Like,
I don't know. It's good. I've always found the kids are always have been pretty like I've always seen the same kind of kid.
Okay.
I think they take their academics seriously. Those who really want to move up, which is great to see. That they're really pursuing academics as well. And a lot of these kids, I'm interviewing a kid later today from Wayne Hills, who's just got accepted at the United States Naval Academy.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to top that. And those are or you talk to a kid going to Notre Dame or a kid going to Georgetown. But as far as the sport, I think it's to me, it hasn't changed much.
Okay.
I always found they're just good kids. I mean, if you just have fun with them and just talk to them about the game or whatever they did, they're very anxious to express their their happiness, or if they're disappointed, they'll tell you. But a lot of times I always hear the off the record comment. Like if I could write a book about off the record, it'd be.
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, something. But you want to stay, but you keep that relationship by keeping things off the record. You don't go around leaking it.
Okay.
You say, okay, no problem. I'm not going to say anything, but thanks for sharing that. And so sometimes you can work it into the story very discreetly,
Okay.
as long as the coach or the kid are okay with it. Just explaining what challenges that person might have faced, but for the most part, I don't think it's changed much. I think what I have seen is that I don't see the crowds at athletic events that I used to see.
Okay.
I mean, like Belleville, I have a picture of Abdel playing against Bloomfield in 1975. And you couldn't even get another person in that gym if you tried. The picture just shows all the fans. I don't know if the fan support's as good as it used to be. I think parents are great, but I don't know if the kids that support their school, unless it's a big game, come out regularly. Because again, there's other things that keep them busy. So it might be a teammate and everything, but after a game, like an afternoon game, there might be 50 or 60 people there, where it used to be pretty full, because that was the one thing to do, was go see a game. Now it's not that much.
How's technology changed things?
Oh, well, social media, Lord knows, has changed it all. But it's funny you bring that up. The wrestlers always have if you know a high school wrestler, they're very focused.
Yes.
And they, not that they hate their opponent, but like I've known wrestlers that really went at it on the mat, and it took a long time for them to become friends afterward, because it was just not that they didn't like each other. It was that type of intensity.
Right.
And one of those wrestlers, a kid from Belleville, said to me years later, because we were at a match, and the kids from opposing teams were talking to each other, hanging out afterward. He shakes his head. He goes, I could have never done that. But they text each other now. They find each other on Facebook, or there's a million other. I mean, Facebook's probably for old people now, I guess, is what I'm hearing. But you know what I mean. I mean, they find each other on Instagram or whatever, and they where I think when I was a kid, we really didn't know these guys too well. We knew them to play against them, but we didn't hang out with them in the summer or text them or call them. It was different.
Yeah.
We were in summer leagues. Summer leagues were great. You probably remember Montclair had some great summer leagues.
Right.
You see those guys over the summer. I remember Kelly Chapuka, when he was a kid, they used to send him to the East Orange League just to get beat up a little bit.
Down at Elmwood, probably.
Huh?
Down at Elmwood Park.
Correct. And that league was in Jersey City, had a phenomenal league too. And so guys would meet up during the summer and play a lot of ball together. But now I think it's just a smaller world where kids just talk to each other all the time. And I'm not saying they don't go at it on the mat or compete, but it's a little friendlier in certain instances than it used to be.
Yeah, I'm still maybe this is probably like the old school guy. I still like, being friendly and civil outside, but
It,
not being the best of friends. Cause
right,
I still like that edge, like kind of like,
correct.
yeah, I still like that little edge.
Like I said, the Belleville wrestler said to me, he said, I couldn't see me and the guy Kip from Bloomfield. The two of them were like, it took years for them to
I believe it.
even talk to each other
I
after they
believe it.
competed in high school. It took a long time. Now
Mhm.
they're pretty cool, but it took a long time
Yeah,
because they both really wanted to beat each other, and it was a great rivalry. And that's again, there was nothing nasty about it. They went at it, they competed, they shook hands, but they weren't hanging out together after the match. It's
absolutely.
kids do that a little bit more now
Yeah.
because they work out. A lot of them go to the same wrestling clubs. A lot of them over the summer play on the same teams. With summer teams, so it's a little closer now than it used to be, and that's great.
Yeah,
That's great to see the sportsmanship. I'm like nothing wrong with that, but the edge was
totally.
kind of cool.
The edge is cool, and like I said, there's nothing to your point. There's nothing wrong with it now. It's different, and that's fine.
This is different, right?
And that's fine. Now, in your line of work, as far as just you and as far as with technology, how's it just impacted your work? I mean, how fast, like before, I mean, let me just guess some of the publications you've done early on before technology, like was it just like the paper came out like once a week, I'm gonna think, like some
Well,
towns?
I worked many years for the Star Ledger, which was a daily paper.
Oh, so you had the daily, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it was interesting. I always said it's different kind of writing. When you write for a weekly, you get a couple of days to put the article together. When you write for a daily, you have to get it done in a couple hours.
Yes.
And if it's a late night on a Saturday, you don't even have that much time. Sometimes you have to dictate it, write it out on scratch, and call it in just to get the article published in time for the next
Okay.
day's paper. So that was a different type of. I loved it. It was a different kind of challenge, though.
How is it now for you though?
Well, now it's almost everything I do is online.
Right. Okay.
There's hardly any. I mean, the newspaper, quote unquote, newspaper business. I mean, the Ledger's still daily. I don't write for them anymore, but I did for, like I said, 15 years. It was a great experience. But it's different now. I mean, people are not buying as many newspapers as they used to, as you know. They can read it online, and it's just where everybody, it's instant gratification. It's microwave news now. You got to get it right away. So I'm not sure if they're reading an article that happened a week ago, if it's really that important to them anymore, because they already know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go on Twitter and find a score in 2 seconds. It's different now.
Yeah.
So the newspaper industry, to me, and I'm not saying it's dying, but I think it's a different era than it was when I did it 30 years ago.
Now, have you had to change your writing style with the times, or you just stuck to what your core values and how you like to do things? Because I know sometimes some people tend to adjust and make a shift that's not them, and they can't look themselves in the mirror.
No, I
Okay.
thankfully I'm knock wood on that. I've never had that. I've never had that concern. I mean, like I said, depending on what the deadlines are key. So if I'm
Mhm.
told, look, can you get this done today because we need it tonight, then I'm going to write a little faster. I'm not going to be as, I'm just going to get to the facts of who, what, when, where, and why, and just get the
Mhm.
article done.
Okay.
If it's a feature, which I still love doing, where I say, you know what, yeah, that sounds like a great, I can pitch a story. I really want to do an article on this kid, his family and everything. Okay, we got time to put that together. We don't have to, that's not a pressing issue for today.
Mhm.
But like last year, Bloomfield had a state champion in wrestling, a young lady, Kira Pipkins, who's a freshman.
Wow.
And in
Good
fact, her
stuff.
dad was an Olympic, was on the U.S. Olympic team for luge back in the 90s. So she's a
So
very talented athlete.
it's in her blood. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. But she won the state title in Atlantic City at Boardwalk Hall last year, because the girls, there's girls wrestling now. It's become very popular. And something like that, when I called my editor, because I, for the
Right.
stuff I do in Bloomfield, he said, "All right, get that to me right away." So I had my laptop, at Boardwalk Hall. So I ran up, wrote the article, and sent it in. So I interviewed her, interviewed the coach, got a couple pictures, and we want to get that out right away and get the news out immediately to our readers. Where before that, I had done a feature on her leading into the state tournament. It wasn't, it was, I interviewed her and talked about her family. That's something you can write about and put out when you're ready. But when something exciting like that happens, win a state title, you want to get the word out right away, because you want to beat the other papers doing it.
Mhm.
And it's no offense to them. It's just, it's business.
Definitely. I say this jokingly, but I still know, to your point, it's business, and it's still competition amongst journalists or whatever.
Big time.
Who's Who would you consider one of your rivals?
Well, I don't know about rivals, but I call most of them just because, again, it was never full time for me. So,
Okay.
I mean, some of the, like, there's a couple of guys from the Star Ledger. You might know Mike Kinney
Right.
really well. He's still doing high school. So he and I are about the same age.
Mhm.
I have the highest regard for him. He's one of the really classy individuals that, I mean, he still wants to get his article out and write it better, but he's a phenomenal writer. I love his style. Bob Baer, who worked for the Ledger for a long time. He's still very involved with writing. Again, a great guy and a really good writer.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really consider a lot of them rivals because a lot of times we're all working for the same company.
Okay.
And I'm assigned one part, he's assigned another. But even now, we're all doing different things. I don't necessarily think I want to beat Mike to that article because Mike's got a different readership base than I do.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of guys that might not read me read him and vice versa. So it's nice to be able to share it. And with social media, you can do that. I love putting my articles on Facebook and on Twitter, and people like them. They reshare them, and that's fun.
Absolutely. Now, Mr. Kinney, we're Immaculate guys. He's Immaculate.
Yeah,
guy.
that's right. Michael was. That's right.
Yeah,
he was a Montclair Immaculate.
Yes.
One of the classiest. Great guy. I've worked with Mike off and on for I guess about 20 some odd years.
Okay.
And but he's been doing it since the early 80s, and but he and I are about the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a friend of mine, his name is Jim Haig, who's more of a Hudson County guy. But Jimmy's been he covers Seton Hall basketball. He really hustles. But you'll see him at high school games, you'll see him at college games. He writes for AP. It's a different, if you're doing this full time, you got to really hustle. And I give these guys a lot of credit because they work their, what's up.
Yeah.
They do some really, really fine work. And Jim Haig and Mike Kinney, Bob Baer. There's a lot of good guys out there.
Yeah.
Bergen Records.
Bergen Records. I mean, obviously the publication from myself was the Montclair Times.
Yes.
It was the Montclair Times.
That's one of the really good weekly papers too.
Yeah. And I think it's transition. It was I think I saw some was like North Jersey something now. I'm
North Jersey Sports. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of new ones out there.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes to experience, and you got to have a little bit of knowledge of the area when you're covering it, because the kids know right away if you know what you're talking about or not. They know, So if you're out there trying to make stuff up, they're gonna see through you.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, some of the guys I mentioned are just really, really top of the line. And I've learned my writing styles that I have come from being around these people too. Like I read their articles, say that's good, that's nice the way he put it or she put it. Female too. Hopefully I could be that good one day. And I always try to, think I could be better.
I know we all can, and I think you have been that good. 45 plus years later, I think you have been that good.
I appreciate it. It's been it's been a lot of fun, and I hope I can keep doing it a little bit longer.
No, absolutely. Want to have some fun? Put you on the spot for a second. I know with a couple some questions here. So when you up and down these highways, do you prefer the Parkway or the Turnpike?
No, Parkway.
Parkway, okay.
Yeah, but again, if I work a lot in the Philadelphia area, so I got to take the Turnpike to go there. But the two, I'll take Garden State Parkway anytime.
So after a big game or article or something you have to do, you gotta go get something to eat. What's your favorite place to go?
Well, and people are gonna laugh at me. I love Hooters.
Okay, no.
I actually do go for the wings.
Okay.
I love baby back ribs. So any place I can find a good plate of ribs is nice. There's a lot of local restaurants in my area. I like to go have something to eat. Not really a chain, but just some places I enjoy. Okay. I love Italian food. Being a Lamberti, you gotta like Italian food.
Yes.
And I have a favorite restaurant in New York City. It's called Patsy's. It's been there. Okay. Been there 100. It's 75 years. Feels like 100. And the owners have been very good to me over the years, and they even put my name on the menu once. So that was pretty cool.
No, absolutely. Where's Patsy's located at in New York? Where's it?
It's only one location. It's on West 56. Okay. Between 7th and 8th, right in the theater district. But right now, as you know, that area has been pretty quiet because of all the shutdowns.
Yeah. No, I know, and I know. I just like to make mental notes of places whenever I do go back to New York to try something different. So that's why
If you go online, you won't be disappointed. He does it very. He actually opened up a second place now in Asbury Park.
Okay.
That's so far it's been doing really well. So I hope it works out for him. He's a good guy.
Good stuff. Best article you ever wrote?
Oh man, I've been lucky enough to get a couple of awards, over the years for articles that I did. I think it might go back to that article about the teacher with the brain surgeon, former student.
Yeah.
The student's name Eddie Alisi, and he actually did recently a new surgical technique that's never been done before in this country. If you Google his name, you'll see it, and it's an amazing guy. But I would say that article was right up there.
Okay.
I mean, again, you write art, news stories, and features. They're all different.
Yeah, but one of them is probably sometimes too. You might be like, you know what, talking to yourself, like, you know what, Mike, I nailed that one.
Well, I could say that about the article I recently did on Joe Dubuque. He was 20 years ago. He ended up getting a concussion and almost missed out on winning another state title. Mm-hmm. And I just wrote it last week, a 20-year anniversary of that whole week. And we really had a lot of fun with that. A lot of people wrote me and said they really liked the timeline and the chronology and back at that era. So that was a lot of fun too.
Nah, good stuff here. Is there an article that you wrote that shouldn't have been released?
I look at when I was younger, when I was maybe in my 20s and really getting into it, when I covered Belleville, sometimes I would be a little too involved with the sport in that I was a fan before I was a writer.
Got you.
So if I thought there was bad officiating and it was slanted against Belleville, I would bring it out more than I should have.
Okay.
I mean, the officiating might not have been good, but there was no reason. You learn from experience. You don't do that. I mean, even if you can say, oh, there's a questionable call, you can have the coach be quoted and saying, I don't agree with the call. But for me to come out and say, well, it was a bad call and they got screwed or robbed or whatever. I think as a younger writer, I did that a few times and I shouldn't have.
Okay.
But you learn from experience. It's not because these are people trying to do their job as well.
Experience is the best teacher.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah.
Not even a question. And sometimes you might not like an official, but they're there to do a job too. So you have to.
Yes. Best sports town in Essex County.
Best sports
town in Essex County.
Oh man. Tell you, Montclair is right up there.
Okay.
Montclair, only because having covered Montclair when Bob Lester coached there, and the football programs are tremendous, and track, and I grew up in Belleville, but I wouldn't call Belleville the best town, but it was a good town. Mm-hmm. Livingston's really, really good. I've always been impressed with Livingston. The quality of the kids that come out of that school academically and athletically are really special. I'll tell you what, Cedar Grove's really turned into quite a town.
Now, Cedar Grove has always been kind of like one of those hidden jewels in Essex County.
Really has, and their facilities are incredible. They have multiple turf fields, and really, I mean, and the kids really, they stay there. The town people stay in that town, even though it's a small school, and they just seem to do well. The girls' basketball team just finished undefeated yesterday for the season.
They did for the season, okay.
14-0, nice step for them.
Yeah, and I got actually the pleasure to play and compete against one of their legendary folks there, Bobby Diaco.
Okay.
He wound up coaching. I'm in Connecticut, so he wound up went to Iowa linebacker. He turned into be a head coach.
That's right. He went to Iowa.
Yeah. So I'm familiar. They were in our conference actually when we played, so I'm very familiar with Cedar Grove.
Cedar Grove a couple of years ago had a wide receiver named David Njoku.
Yeah, is that the one for the Browns? Okay.
Yeah. And he also high jumped 7'2". I'll never forget that. He was a high jumper, a 7'2" high jumper, and he's playing for Cleveland. But he played at Cedar Grove.
Now he had a sibling too. Did he have a sibling?
Yeah, he went to. His name was Evidence, and there was another Njoku after that, and they all played at Wayne Hills. That's how I got to know them fairly well.
Okay.
But David, the oldest one, really, and he went on and had he's doing very well in the NFL.
Yes.
But Cedar Grove, small town, but I think Cedar Grove does a great job with their athletics.
Absolutely. This one here, I know you might be a little biased, but favorite decade you covered?
I would say, well, Belleville-wise, 80s for sure.
Okay.
Not even a question. 1980s. In fact, but most coaches will tell you that was the glory year for Belleville sports in the 80s, late 70s into the 80s. Great music back then too. I was a big disco fan, so it was a lot of good music.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was a Barry White fan. I'm telling you, you give me R&B, I love that stuff. I would say the 80s when it came to Belleville. but even every decade provides new challenges. So I mean, when Y2K hit, early 2000s, some great kids, especially in wrestling back then. Even now, the kids are there's really, really good kids. But there was something nice about the 80s. I was young then, not that I'm old, but you know what I mean.
Got you. Best, if you can name three, best high school teams you ever saw. Doesn't make a difference what sport.
Okay. Good one. I say the 1981 Belleville baseball team, which won the Greater North Tournament.
Okay.
Wayne Hills football has won 10 state championships since 2002. I can't give you 1 year because they've won so many, but I would say the program itself, I've seen some incredible football up there from them.
Okay.
So I would say Wayne Hills. Nutley girls basketball. Again, I'm just they were undefeated state champs in the late 70s. They had some tremendous talent then too. Different era, but still they were very good. So each town I have covered has had some pretty solid programs. But I'd say Wayne Hills football might be number one for me.
Okay, cool. Two more questions and I'll leave you alone. Goodfellas or Bronx Tale?
Goodfellas.
And you know why I mentioned that, right? Take a guess. Who's from Belleville in those?
Joe Pesci.
Films? Bingo.
You talking about Joe Pesci?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm more of a. They're both great movies, but I definitely like Goodfellas.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's why like I said, I know he's a Belleville guy, so I said let me have some fun.
Connie Francis is from Belleville too.
Yes.
Real famous singer in the 50s. Yeah.
Now, well, my last one, obviously we talked about media and technology and all that stuff here, but what would you give a young journalist coming up? What advice would you give him or her?
I would say, and it's kind of a cliche, but do your homework and try to. Technology provides a lot of. You can Google anything now, which you couldn't do 20, 30 years ago. You'd have to go to a library and look it up in an encyclopedia. But I would say I don't think there's enough attention to detail in certain instances where people just want to get articles out to beat everybody else because everything's clicked now. You got to click on it to be able to read it. And sometimes the information is not always accurate. So I think it's always good to try to do your homework and just try to follow up and maybe get one or two sources when you write an article and not just one, and not just read the first thing you see on the internet because it's not always true. But I think to me that's important, is to be diligent. Okay. Even in this world where everything can get changed, to me it's important.
Now you bring up a good point, like double, triple checking, quadruple checking your stories, like your facts and all that stuff. Because
you're putting stuff. Yeah. Right. And my journalism teacher once told me, like, once you, especially if it's something negative about somebody, which thankfully in sports I don't really do any of that. But I mean, if you're writing more creatively and you're writing a negative piece on someone and it's not true, once you put it out there, it's hard to bring back. Even if you made a mistake, you can recant the story and everything, but. It's that first impression that unfortunately deals with a lot of people.
Absolutely. No, that's good stuff. That's definitely good stuff to know. And I know, just wanted to say one, journalists such as yourself here, and I said it before you got on when I was just talking. I just think it's just one of those things here where you guys make the athletes. So, I mean, help make the athletes. Again, I know it's a joy to follow the sports, to follow the particular athletes and all that, but it's a give and take. It's a mutual partnership as far as in regards, and I think, those being able to cover the games or write the special features, whether it's the athlete, the coach, or the school in general here, I think it's just one of those things. People such as yourself here, like, sometimes get taken for granted, and my thing is, I think it's just like, without you or the Mike Kenny's and the Steve Toberts and everybody else in this line of work.
I'm glad you mentioned Steve. He's another great guy, Steve Tobert.
We wouldn't be where we're at. I mean, granted, our athletic prowess may somehow seep through, but in the same breath, just the coverage and just the joy, you can feel the joy in the articles, as far as that you guys write, as far as you loving your jobs and everything else here. But I think it's definitely a give and take situation here in regards to, journalism and just the coverage of sports and your love for it, because you really got to love it to want to drive up and down these highways and to your point here, I know obviously you have entirely another career here, but, impacts your family too, from that
No, absolutely.
career to have to go to a game, and you don't want to come home and, like I said, have divorce papers on the table waiting for you because you
Right.
you run it around, so
That's right.
it's a delicate balance, as far as that goes here. And I think I just wanted to say, Mr. Lamberti, like, no, thank you,
Thank you.
just thank you just in general for what all of you done, for athletes and everything that you've done, coaches, et cetera, here, like you've done for us, throughout your time here, as far as like to want to stick with it and to stick to it this, 45 plus years later and still just pump out articles. I mean, that just exemplifies your joy for this. And, you being officially you, helped me be officially me indirectly here, just not even knowing, but I just know the job that goes into that, and and obviously some of the deadlines, the pressures that you talked about earlier here. No, I honestly, like, sir, I'm like very taken back just for you giving me the time, and I really, really appreciate all that you've done. That in this line of work here.
I appreciate you giving me the time to talk to you. And like I said, the biggest compliment I ever got was when somebody said they saw the passion in my writing, and that means a lot, because they can tell I really want these. I really, that's why you get friendly with the parents, because I'll let you go on this, but when I was younger, you can get along with the kids a little bit more and you can talk to them. But as you get older, your relationship is more with the parents of those kids, because they're the one. I mean, the kids are great, but you're not going to hang out with a kid. When you're in your, my age, you're not hanging out with a teenager anymore. But you can be pretty friendly with the parents, and they appreciate and they see it, and that helps open that door with their child a little bit more, to have a more of a nicer relationship. Because I won't text a kid, I won't do any of that stuff. It's a different world today. You can't do it anymore.
Totally. Everybody hypersensitive about everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, to your point here, and even some families you probably see day in and day out, like, they treat their kid as like a business. Like, no, you come
Correct.
to me. You come to me before you can talk to my
child.
child.
And you got to stay away. Just keep a nice, friendly relationship, but don't get too involved, because it's their kid. It's blood thick in the water. So you always want to be professional and
yes.
And do the best you can to help. To talk about a kid's talent and leave it at that.
Yes, no, absolutely. No, thank you for your time, sir. I really appreciate it. Like, thank you very much. Thank you much.
Thanks,
and I look forward to just continuing to read your articles and everything else too. So please don't retire no time soon.
No, I don't. I hope not to. And just to let you go, on Facebook, Essex County has a nice pages for basketball. You've probably seen them for basketball and football. There's a couple of nice pages that they're doing.
I definitely will look those up here. And again, you mentioned a gentleman too. Actually, he was on my wish list here. Mr. Parvecchio. I saw.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to extend. extend the olive branch to him and see if I can pull him in.
If you like, just after we get off, or if you want during the week, shoot me a note. You have my contact info, and I'll certainly talk to Chet and see what we can do.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to just communicating with you. No, I appreciate it, sir.
I appreciate your time.
All right, take care.
Have a nice day. Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.
You too. Okay. Good stuff. World of journalism and sports. It's like, it's a marriage. It's happy at times, not so happy at times, what have you. But I think when it's all said and done, they both need each other, as far as to move the sports further, and also just even the younger journalists that's coming into the game here. So Mr. Lamberti, I was very gracious for him to just give his time to me and just have this conversation, as far as just small talking. So I really appreciate it. Until the next time, put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.